at the end of the day, you're your best advocate. You're your best physician, knowing what's going on with you, what's normal, what's not, what's changed. And then knowing that making these small changes to your diet and your lifestyle will add up to big results.
Welcome to the New World Normal podcast. I'm Debbie Harrell, your host, and twice a month I'm speaking with some amazing humans who are disrupting norms and working to create a more inclusive and holistic society. These people are using their sphere of influence, no matter how large or small, to positively impact the world around them. They'll be sharing their expertise as well as sharing stories of resiliency and hope. We'll be talking about the issues that are affecting us all, from the environment, human rights, social issues, criminal justice, and education. We'll talk about our healthcare systems, wellness, and food, from how it's cultivated and distributed to how it's prepared and consumed. Basically, we're going to talk about all the systems in our society that aren't necessarily working for the benefit of the many. We'll strategize and collaborate on how we as a collective can intentionally make better choices every day that will lead to a positive change in the world around us. Because in the end, it's up to us to solve these problems. There is no magic potion or magic wand. It is us and our daily choices and how we spend our time and how we invest our resources. Intrigued? Stick around and have a listen, and by all means, click like or subscribe on your favorite podcast source. Did you make any New Year's resolutions regarding food, diet, wellness, dare I say weight? If you are sticking to it, that is amazing. Keep it up. You will probably enjoy this conversation. If you are struggling a bit and feeling bad about how difficult it can be, then this conversation is definitely for you. Our guest today, Alice Smith, is a nutritionist who at one time struggled with the fad diets and the body image issues and has found her calling in the world of nutrition. And she's amazing at breaking it down, keeping it simple, reminding us that it's about progress over perfection, and that it's about finding balance so we can continue to enjoy our lives, go to the parties, and still find ways to support our bodies in nutritious ways. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Alice Smith. Well, today I am talking to Alice Smith, and I am so excited. She was nice enough to come into the collective, which is our membership community, and do a talk about nutrition. And it was hands down the most well-attended workshop we've had. And it was a lot of fun and it was informative. So I'm super excited to have her on the show. Welcome, Alice. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Great to be here. I'm doing wonderful.
I know we talked a little bit before we got started about how we could easily talk for hours about food, just geeking out about all the different parts. But today I want to kind of focus a little, as focused as I ever am, on the importance during these current times, craziness, right? We're just coming out of this worldwide pandemic of supporting our overall health and what a key part nutrition plays in that. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit to you about you, because I know I'm a huge fan. I follow you on Instagram and you have such great content. You're so relatable, so easy to like, and even you get your parents involved, which is so fun. I love seeing stories about your dad doing crazy stuff. So how did you find yourself in the world of nutrition? Where'd you get your first start?
Well, thank you for following along and for your kind words. It's a lot of fun. And when you have fun with what you do, it makes it that much easier. And nutrition has just become a part of, it's not just my job, but it's my lifestyle. And I didn't grow up that way. And I would say that just being overweight as a child, struggling with eating and nutrition in my teen years, yo-yo dieting, and not knowing what to eat or how to eat. It was just something I remember going to the doctor as a kid and the doctor saying, my BMI was too high, and I hate BMI because it's just your height and your weight, and it doesn't put into account gender or muscle mass or frame size, and being told to eat dry cereal and grapes. I will never forget that. I don't know why I remember that, but I just remember my pediatrician, who had no training in nutrition, telling me that. And then I fast forward to college years of freshman 15 and going from playing ball and being really active in high school to not as active in college. I did Weight Watchers just to manage weight, and then gained weight on Weight Watchers. And my whole nutrition history was not knowing what to eat because of diet culture and physicians not giving the, nutrition advice like they should. And I was counting calories and Weight Watchers points and fat grams. And until I learned how to eat through my education, it put me into nutrition as a career field, knowing that it's not just the fat grams and the sugar content, it's really the ingredients in the food. And I work with my clients and with myself on reading labels and figuring out the ingredients and what's in food and how that has an impact on our overall health. And that has been the game changer for me personally and professionally, of realizing, okay, it's not just about the dry cereal and the grapes. I don't know what, it's so random, but I will never forget my pediatrician telling me that. And counting Weight Watchers points, which was focused totally on the quantity of food, the amount. If you think about counting macros, counting calories, counting points, it doesn't get down to the quality of your food. And if we're really wanting to reduce inflammation, fight disease, have more energy, manage weight, balance hormones, less joint pain, better brain health, it all comes down to what's in your food that's essentially fueling you. And I was never taught that as a, child and as a teen. And so going into nutrition and really finding that out has been what has transformed my health and also led me into this as a career.
So awesome that you get to do something that you love. I think that makes a big difference
For sure.
in our lives. You've touched on so many important points. First of which, doctors not being trained in nutrition,
Yes.
which is huge because we take our health concerns to them. And because they're not trained in nutrition, and this isn't to knock doctors, I know they have a lot on their plate and they have learned a lot, but that key element is so crucial. And so unless you are informed going in, a lot of times you're going to get bad advice, like eating dry cereal and grapes. And I'm thinking, how is that going to help?
It's so crazy. And I'm glad you said that, because it's not only the physicians don't have the nutrition training. A, they don't. And B, they don't have the time, you're in and out. And so when it comes down to it, this is one of my favorite, I guess, sayings and things to look at is, the food industry, they're not concerned about your health. So the food industry, their main concern is not your health. I hate to break it to you if anybody thought it was. It's not. The food industry wants you to buy their food. The cereal companies, chips, the food industry is worried about money. So the food industry is not worried about your health, and the healthcare system's first concern is not your food. When you go to the doctor, what you're eating is not what they ask you first, if they ask you at all. And if you do ask questions, they don't know how to answer it. So if the food industry is not worried about your health and the healthcare system's not worried about what you eat, at the end of the day, it's left up to you, which can be really scary, but I want it to be empowering. I want you to understand that the decisions you make at the grocery store with your money makes a huge impact on your overall health. And then also navigating the healthcare system is hard and confusing, but knowing that at the end of the day, you're your best advocate, you're your best physician, knowing what's going on with you, what's normal, what's not, what's changed, and then knowing that making these small changes to your diet and your lifestyle will add up to big results.
And I feel like once you start tweaking the nutrition and tuning into how it's making you feel a little bit more, that makes advocating for yourself and the doctor's office a little easier, because you're just so much more aware. A lot of times
Absolutely.
we're not really tuned into what's happening, but once we start paying attention to the food that we're taking in, how it's making us feel, it helps a little bit. And I think that's one of the reasons I was drawn to your content, is because you do make it so practical and easy to understand, whether it's you're looking at the labels and the ingredients. Because when I started watching your Instagram stuff, I felt I was pretty aware, but there were even some ingredients that you were talking about that I was like, what? I didn't even know that. So then, and I was able to look a little deeper. And the other part of your content that I love is when you go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
and you're shopping, and then also your alerts, because another big problem I think we face in our culture is you touched on a little bit, the food companies aren't looking out for our health. They want us to buy
Nope.
more food. That's why
Mm-hmm.
they're making this highly palatable processed food that it's making you crave it more. It's like an addiction.
Yeah,
So
it is.
it's impossible to, like, I'm just going to eat less of that.
Mm-mm.
It's not going to happen. But the accessibility of the nutritious foods, right? They're more expensive. And you're really good at alerting your followers, like, hey, I was just at this grocery store and this kombucha's on sale right
On
now.
sale.
Go.
Yes. Go get it. Run. Yes, absolutely. We got to look out for each other. And navigating the grocery store, it can be so overwhelming when you're just starting a clean eating journey. And just like you said, same with me. I thought that I was being healthy years ago by doing low fat, and we all went through the 90s fat free craze. And so we were buying the Snackwell's cookies and everything that was fat free, not knowing that it's all loaded with sugar and preservatives and additives that are addictive. And so we weren't taught how to read a label and look at the ingredients and what they're doing to you, and what to limit and what to avoid.
If you're enjoying this conversation, you'll love the discussions happening in the New World Normal community, where we meet regularly to discuss personal growth and social issues, because we know when we do our work, we're better able to navigate this ever-changing world. Be sure to follow the link in the show notes for more information. Or even if we were looking at the ingredients, half the time we're like, I have no idea what that ingredient is. Like,
Yeah.
I've never,
Yeah.
it's funny. My daughter just brought home some conditioner from the store, and she said, I
Uh-huh.
liked this one because it has the ingredients. And then next to it, it says what this means, like what this really is.
Right. It's so crazy. It can be so deceiving and so crazy. I do have some tips to navigate the grocery store in a healthy and more reasonably priced way. So we'll have.
What is it something you can share right now?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, for sure. Yes, I would love to. So the thing is that when you're starting a healthy journey, clean eating, so back to going to the doctor's office, the root, we've got to start with nutrition, because even if you're taking prescription medications, if you have an underlying cause, even if you're taking supplements, herbs, any of that, if your nutrition is not a solid, strong foundation, none of those are going to work as well as they can. So a lot of people say, well, I'd just rather take a pill for that, or what I eat doesn't matter. This is hereditary. I'm bound to get this. I hear that all the time. But even if it's a condition where you maybe need a medication, even we'll just say thyroid, blood pressure, heart, diabetes, blood sugar, etc., or even just joint pain, supplementation, vitamins, minerals, if you have a horrible diet, those are not going to work as well as they could. They are going to work more optimally with a solid, good foundation of a healthy diet. So that's why diet is first, and that's where we should start. And if you're trying to add all of these things on a bad diet, it's just like adding it to, sand instead of a strong foundation. So really thinking about your diet as a strong foundation. And I work with clients a lot of time who start out saying eating healthy is really expensive, and it can be, but we've also got to think about it as an investment. So it's an investment in your health more than an expense, because if you don't focus on it now, it's going to become an issue later. And that's going to be surgeries, medications, whatever that's going to be, that's going to have to help, take care of your health. So spending it now on nutrition is what I recommend. But also when we think about nutrition, how we were taught is to, like we said, read the label for the fat, the sugar, etc. But what we want to get back to is eating real whole food. The less processed, the more nutritious. So the fewer ingredients, the fewer additives, the less processed, less preservatives. If it's 5 ingredients or less, is wonderful. Know what those ingredients are, how to pronounce them. And a lot of times those foods are actually cheaper. So think about a bag of veggie chips, right? So veggie chips, which is really just a glorified potato chip with some carrot and beet powder sprinkled in, that compared to a bag of raw carrots. So that with guacamole or hummus is going to be much more nutritious and a lot cheaper than a bag of processed carrots, right? Even thinking about oatmeal, instead of your flavored instant oatmeal, your apples and cinnamon or strawberries and cream that's got natural flavors, additives, and sugar, it's much cheaper to get a canister of old fashioned oats and to add banana, raisins, nuts, cinnamon, a little honey to that. Same with things like our sweet potatoes. So just getting sweet potatoes or white potatoes, just getting those, buying those by the pound, our fruits and our veggies, even our fresh fruit, bananas, thinking about how reasonably priced those are. Even things like getting rice in a big bag, frozen broccoli, and doing a whole chicken or turkey in the crock pot instead of something that's pre-made like a lean cuisine or a prepackaged dinner. So when it comes to doing our less processed food, even think about cheese. So when you get cheese that's already shredded, there's anti-caking agents added there to keep it from clumping up. So just get a block of cheese. It's going to be cheaper and more nutritious, and you can just shred that at home in a couple seconds. So thinking about the less processed is more nutritious, but the less processed is usually cheaper also. So being able to kind of outweigh that is a good way to look at it.
It's cheaper. And I'm going to play devil's advocate just for a second. And because I have a funny story to share,
Yeah.
it might take a little more prep time and a
Yep.
little more work, but it's worth
Yep.
it in the end. And that's a lot of it I have found, because I had to completely shift the way I ate this past year. Once you get in the habit, it gets easier, and then it gets enjoyable. And you're realizing like, oh, this food that I'm making for myself is
Yeah.
nourishing my body in a way that's helping it heal, and it's supporting it. And it just kind of, that cycle becomes one that feeds itself, right? I'm feeling
I
better. And
love
I know
that.
it's because the food that I'm feeding myself. But I had to,
Yep.
when you said the anti-caking stuff on the cheese, because I
Yeah.
remember when I brought home a block of cheese
Yeah.
and the kids were like, what? Like, what?
Oh,
I have to grate my own cheese. And then I was thinking, oh my gosh, I can remember as a kid that being
yeah.
my part of the thing. Like, oh, can you grate some cheese for me? And
That's
we're
funny.
so used to the pre-bagged grated
Yeah.
cheese that even
Yeah.
that is a chore. I'm like, come on, people, it's not that big of a deal. Just grate it.
That's funny. I'm glad you said that though, because you're right. It can cost more time if you get, if you need to cut up your carrots, peel and slice your sweet potatoes. All of these things can take longer. But like you said, once you get into the kitchen, it becomes a type of self care. You know that you're nourishing your body. You know that you're doing this for a reason. And then it becomes just something that I recommend my clients putting it in their calendar, just like a meeting, knowing, okay, I'm going to need an hour to prep my food to cook for the week. I need to throw this in the crock pot. I have to do this on Sundays or Mondays and Thursdays, and scheduling that time in. And then if you put on some music or have something TV in the background, it kind of becomes this self-care way of taking care of yourself. And also eating in, as we know, is a lot cheaper than going to a restaurant. If you think per person, per item, super expensive, especially nowadays, to go out to eat. So if you can make that at home, it's going to be a lot cheaper. But thinking about what your resources are, and if you're financially able to get these things, I know that our grocery stores here, a lot of times you can go in and you can get things in the produce section. They'll cut it for you, or it's already cut up. They've got the sweet potatoes already in chips. They've got the zucchini noodles already in zoodles, watermelon already cut, and that's going to be more expensive, but it depends on what your resources are and what you're willing to spend. If you're willing to spend more money to save time, or if you're willing to spend less money and use your resource of a little more time, whatever balance is for you and your family, it can absolutely work. And making healthy food a part of your weekly grocery shopping and a part of your daily life is going to be worth it. And it's going to give you more energy, better health, better outcomes. It's just that initial really doing it and figuring out what works.
Exercising those muscles and building those new habits.
Yes.
I love that your grocery store has all that kind of produce available. I live in a pretty small town, so our grocery store does not I'm lucky to have decent
Yes.
produce most of the time. But I
Yeah.
love that you said zoodles, because that
Yeah.
was one of my first experiences with substituting in something, and I now prefer them. to,
Yeah.
they're so good and it's really
So
easy to
good.
do. And that kind of led me back to when you were talking about the people would rather take a pill.
Hmm.
And I know that's the case with a lot of, like, I can have kind of a crappy diet if I'm taking all these supplements to counteract for that. But then talk about expense, right? Those supplements,
Yes.
and if your body's not in a good form because of your nutrition, you're likely not going to absorb a lot of those supplements. And then you're just having really expensive urine, right? You're just
Yes.
all
Yeah.
that money's going right through
All
you.
that money. Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Dr. Terry Walls?
Yes.
Have her TED talk on the mitochondria. I was just listening to her again on a different podcast, and it's just reminded me about the importance of when you can get these nutrients in your food
Yes.
to do it. And I'm like, gosh, I haven't been eating greens lately. I need to up my greens intake. And the one out, and I was going to say this for the listeners also, because they're really finding the importance of organ meats, like how
Hmm.
good that is for us.
Yes.
But how many of us really want to eat liver or
Yeah, I
heart?
know, right?
So I was like, there's
Yes.
a supplement for that. That is the one
Yeah,
supplement I feel like I'm leaning on that one.
that is true. That's funny. And you made me think, everything you say makes me think of something. I love it. Remind me diversity. There are two things, what you said with supplements, two things that I really want to kind of hit home on is one, speaking of doctors and knowing your body, is that you truly are your best physician. And a lot of times we look for outside people to tell us what to do, to give us a plan for a supplement or a medication to heal us. But at the end of the day, I really encourage everyone listening to think about their lifestyle, their diet, and you can always pinpoint where you should probably start. If that is you want somebody else to tell you, but you may not know everything you need to do, but if it is you have to have 4 pots of coffee in the morning to wake up. You have to wind down with wine every night to go to sleep. If you know you're running off 4 hours of sleep, if you know you haven't had something green in a long time, you can't remember the last time you had a drink of water. I was talking to someone the other day and I said, how's your water intake? And they said, the only water I drink is when I brush my teeth. And I said, I mean, we just both laughed together. But more about yourself than your physician does, right? You are your personal doctor. So just think about, I encourage everyone to, before you start buying a lot of supplements or trying to just take route after route that can be super frustrating, think about what is something you need to do, is sabotaging your efforts of a healthy lifestyle, and start there. What is that? Is it hydration? Is it healthy fats? Is it sleep? Is it movement? If you know you never exercise, I guarantee your sleep is going to be better if you start walking. Your headaches are going to be better. Your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your cravings, everything is going to be better. Your mental health, your relationships, your emotions, if you get outside and start walking. And it doesn't take a physician to tell you that, right? So really thinking about what can you incorporate into your life that needs an adjustment. And also the diversity of your diet is so important. You said you haven't had greens a lot lately, and I've really been looking into this personally and with my clients, is that the diversity of our diet is so important. We all get in a rut. Everything's a habit, right? And this is even harder for you with not the access to a lot of healthy food and diverse food, but thinking about giving your gut microbiome different foods. I have been listening to a lot of things lately, and one said the goal is 30 different plant species a week. So think about, do you have 30 different plant species? And that's so our fruits, our veggies, our herbs. So even like a homemade salad dressing or a sauce, I think chimichurri maybe would have been one of, you can put different, think about cilantro, basil, rosemary, garlic, ginger, turmeric. I just named 7, right? So those are 7, but then think about your spaghetti squash, your eggplant, your sweet potatoes, your carrots, your peppers, your onions, your spinach, and then even thinking about doing an arugula or a mixed green or a kale, how just rethinking your diet, because we not only is our lifestyle a habit as far as when we wake up and what time we go to bed and who we talk to on the phone and what we fix for lunch and the way we drive to work, how we sit in our desk chair, it's all a habit, and it's either compounding in a positive or a negative way. So the same thing with the grocery store. A lot of times we just want to go in the grocery store just so we can get out. We're ready as, it's just kind of a task after work. Maybe you have kids with you. Maybe it's a weekend thing that you don't want to do. Going to the grocery store can be just kind of one of those tasks on our list that we don't look forward to or love. So a lot of times we're not spending a lot of time in there because you want to get in and get out, and you're buying the things that you always buy, and you're buying those hyper palatable foods that the food industry has chemicals, additives, sugar, inflammatory oils added. So you come back for more. So you're grabbing what you've marked off your list. You're out of Oreos, you're out of cereal, you're out of crackers, chips, this, maybe grab a few things in produce, and you're trying to get out. So I really encourage everyone to think about each week, just one new thing. What is one new produce item that you can add? Even if it's a banana, you haven't had bananas in a long time, add bananas. If it's peppers, you haven't had those in a long time, kiwi, oranges, apples, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, garlic, ginger, and even think about things that are maybe a little crazy that you've never had. I experimented with fennel a couple weeks ago, and I was like, what am I even doing? Nobody told me this tasted like licorice. I wouldn't have bought this, but I was like, my gut bacteria is thanking me. So I'm going
It's like, oh,
to,
something
push.
new.
Yeah, that's what it says. Your gut, your brain says, ooh, something new. Thinking about something like fennel or plantains or beets or jicama, something maybe you've never had, experimenting with that, because your gut and your brain is going to thank you. So it doesn't have to be broccoli every week, spinach every week, only apples as a fruit. Really thinking about the diversity, because they give you different nutrients that you may be spending a lot of money to get those in a supplement when you could be getting those from real whole foods.
That's all such great stuff. And now I'm super excited because I am kind of a rut. I am a total routine person. I get
Yeah.
in my ruts, and I used to do, I don't know, I'm sure they call it different things in different places, but it's in our area, it's called Farm Fresh to You. And it's a box of produce from local farms.
Yeah.
And it's delivered to your door. Because I live remotely, I can't really just go to a farmer's market. So I was like, oh, maybe I need to start doing that, because they'd always put random stuff in there that I wouldn't
Yes.
like.
Oh, see, I love that. Yes. Like what? What were you going to
I
say?
was going to say bok choy because I love bok choy, but
Nice.
I never think to buy it. And they don't always have it at our grocery store. But I wanted to circle back to a couple other things that you mentioned. One of which being
Yeah.
herbs, oibs.
Herbs. Herbs. Yeah.
And I learned this in your community because I always think about herbs for flavor, for adding, a level of flavor, but you don't think about the nutritional value that they might bring. And you had someone come in and do a little talk about that. And I was like, wow, I
Yeah.
never even
It
thought
is
about that.
so crazy. It is herbs. You think of them as just kind of a flavor enhancing spice, whatever. But yeah, just the
Medicinal, that's the word. Yes.
medicinal nutritional powerhouse that they are is so crazy. Yes, and that's one thing I definitely recommend everyone to think about is when you're adding the diversity in your diet, increasing your plant intake, think about herbs, because we don't always think about those. So just start slow, grow what you can, and thinking about what's in season too. So I love that you're doing that you have access to a box of produce, because not only is what is seasonal more reasonably priced, if it's in season, it's usually more nutritious and tastes better. So things that are in season and are local, you're not only supporting local farmers, which I'm all about, but it's usually cheaper, tastes better, and more nutritious when it's in season and local. And it doesn't have to be on a tractor trailer for weeks coming to you. It's right there. So I think that's something great.
That is. The other thing I wanted to circle back to when you were talking about how we are our own best advocate, and we know a lot of times, and I agree 100%. The biggest hurdle, I think, is we don't want to know.
Mm,
And I can speak from my personal experience when I first, before I actually, they were manifesting as health conditions, I was noticing that when I would eat or drink certain things, I would
mm,
sneeze. I'd get super
mm.
nasally and drippy and be miserable, have headaches.
Yes.
And I knew what was happening, but I'm like, I don't want to stop that. And
Right.
for
It's
me, my
funny.
sneezy nose wasn't as difficult because like I have friends that have more stomach issues. So like have IBS if they, that makes it a lot easier to avoid something because I know if it's going to like take me out and I'm going to have to stay in my bathroom for a while,
Right.
like it's easier to avoid. But I'm like, if I just get a runny nose, like I just need to have some tissue. It's totally socially acceptable for me to have a runny nose.
That is so funny. Oh
And
my goodness.
and so I dug in my heels and I did not want to. And then
Yep.
fast forward, it really compounded and made it much worse.
Mm-hmm.
Had I just listened to my body
Yeah.
originally, it would have
Yep.
saved me a lot of time, energy and pain and money because then
Money.
the health issues and the supplements and all the shifts that had to happen. Yeah, crazy.
Crazy.
So and listen. Like
Yeah. So not only know, but listen and do something about it. And that's the thing too, is you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of things that I teach and work with my clients on, and even in my health history, I didn't know to read the ingredient list instead of the nutrition facts label. I didn't know how damaging artificial sweeteners and sugar alcohols were to your health. I just thought sugar free was healthy. I didn't know that I needed fat, that fat in food doesn't equate fat on your body. Fat in food in a healthy way is so important for your brain and your cell membrane and your skin and your nails, your heart, everything. So you don't know what you don't know, but when you do, you're empowered, and I want to say obligated to look further into that, even if you don't want to. If okay, every time I drink beer, I'm super bloated and feel miserable. Okay, well, gluten is in beer. So it could be a gluten sensitivity, but a lot of people don't want to address that. They just want to keep drinking beer and not and avoid that, just like you did with the runny nose. I heard someone a couple weeks ago say every time they ate cheese, they would break out into like a sweat. And they said something to a friend and was like, that doesn't happen to you. And they're like, no. And they're like, well, I mean, I guess maybe I should address this. It's just, you kind of
but
push
I don't
through.
know. It's cheese. Do I
It's
really want to
cheese. So
address it?
yeah. So they didn't really want to address it. So they avoided it. So ignorance, you think ignorance can be bliss until an example, just like you share, which is a great example of it compounds and can even, if you don't address it, it'll become something much bigger and more to manage.
Definitely. I can attest to that. What are some of the patterns, or do you see any patterns with your clients, like the major stumbling blocks, if you will, that they're having with making the shift in their nutrition?
Yeah, I do see a lot of people really still thinking about it as a diet, and I really preach lifestyle because I do not want to see you lose 20 pounds if you're going to gain 30 when you stop eating healthy. So, getting over that roadblock of it's a diet, I've got to be miserable for a couple months or a couple weeks or whatever in order to lose the weight. And then they're terrified of going back to their old lifestyle because that's what got them in the place they are. So, really understanding that small changes add up to big results. And it is that compound effect of small things, just like a snowball. An object in motion stays in motion. Once you start something really small and then you see a benefit, you see positive results, you're more likely to add something else on. So instead of just starting with everything at once, thinking about if I just go for a 10-minute walk a day, I'm actually probably going to make healthier food choices. I'm also going to sleep better. Like I said earlier, if I exercise, and more sleep helps me to make better decisions when it comes to food. Think about when you run off 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, you wake up and you want caffeine and sugar in your coffee and you're not making healthy food choices. So it all compounds and it all adds up. And even starting with hydration. So most of my clients are just super dehydrated, don't even realize it. So staying hydrated and then starting with just small amount of veggies really thinking about color on your plate and diversity. And a lot of the ladies I work with, we've been scared to death to eat foods that contain fat. So they're worried about eating nuts, eating avocado, don't know which fats are healthy or how to incorporate that. And that fat really keeps you full and satisfied and is super important for overall health. It doesn't equate fat on your body. So really getting away from the diet mindset and figuring out how to make this a lifestyle to where you can successfully navigate holiday events, parties, birthdays, anniversaries, because think about it, there's something all the time. It's not just this holiday season of Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, because then you've got Super Bowl, you've got Valentine's Day, you've got a birthday, there's St. Patrick's Day, then there's graduation cookouts, then there's a baby shower, then there's 4th of July, there's Easter. I mean, there's always something. So learning how to manage eating out, cooking, eating in, having healthy snacks on hand, holiday parties, managing those is just a life hack, really, because they're always going to come. It's not just the Thanksgiving, Christmas season, because think about it too. Thanksgiving is one day. Why are we going to, if we've been trying to eat healthy all year, why are we just going to throw it all away on one day, maybe 2 meals? Maybe your family does 2 meals. If you're, extreme, if you've got a lot of events, maybe more, but that's just one day, one event, one maybe weekend, and knowing how to bounce back and get right back on track. And then also having those healthy foods in your toolbox, in your toolkit, always having those available, and then having healthy dishes that you can take to events and parties to where there's something healthy there. So those are really the things of incorporating it as a lifestyle, not just this short-term diet plan that's miserable. It's realizing, hey, these foods actually taste pretty good. And as I'm eating healthier, my palate is changing. I don't need as much sugar, salt, processed foods, and I'm actually enjoying it and getting the whole family on board. And wow, I'm seeing weight loss, reduced inflammation, less joint pain, better digestion. All of these
All of
are
that.
really, they're priceless, and they're also, you can't put a dollar on those, and you also can't put a number on the scale on those, because those non-scale victories too of just less joint pain, clearer thinking, more energy, and then confidence going in your closet, those that come from that is just a wonderful benefit.
It's such a good point that you make of it's not about losing the weight. It's about changing your lifestyle, because there is always something. And that is part of life, right? We want to be able to participate in those parties and go to the Super Bowl parties and
Right.
the family gatherings, and learning how to navigate and support our overall nutrition. And once you start paying attention and tuning in, you figure out which ones of the foods if I go to a Super Bowl party, I know what I can eat on that buffet that's not going to make me feel crappy. And so I can still participate. It's not about abstaining altogether. It's finding that balance. I think I've heard some people say 80-20.
Yeah.
Because it's not about perfection, right? It's about progress, and it's about supporting yourself and your overall health. One thing you brought up earlier, you mentioned earlier about your clients as an excuse, the hereditary, it's in my genes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite topics is, and I don't think you and I have talked about it, but epigenetics.
Oh, love it.
Right. So I feel like that's a soapbox I need to get on regularly to share the good news. It's not just about your genes. You have the opportunity to influence your genes and your DNA. By one way is the nutrition, the food you're feeding yourself, but also the way you're taking care of yourself, and the way you're processing, your environment, whether it's learning better ways to regulate your nervous system so that your body isn't in high fight or flight mode, are all ways that we can influence our genes. And in the end, nutrition supports that as well, right? When you're eating well, you're better able to regulate your mental health and your nervous system, because you recognize I'm off. When you're eating crappy and you're spinning and overtired and achy, you don't have the bandwidth that now I have to think about my mental health and how I'm processing things. I just don't have that time. But when all these others are lined up, it's much easier. And then in the end, that's going to continue to support your overall health. Just keep building those good building blocks as opposed to building the bad building blocks. So I wanted to squeeze in that epigenetics.
For sure. And you've probably heard the saying, the analogy, which I love, is that your genetics may load the gun when it comes to a chronic disease or illness or being predisposed to, we'll just say, Alzheimer's, heart disease. So your genetics loads the gun, but your lifestyle will pull that trigger or not. So you may have a loaded gun of diabetes in your family, of heart disease in your family, of Alzheimer's in your family, of obesity in your family, but you can pull that trigger by just saying, hey, I'm doomed. I'm destined. I'm going to do whatever I want because I'm going to get it. It's going to just reach out and grab me. Or you can not pull that trigger by changing your diet, your lifestyle, your environment, your toxic load, your sleep, your exercise. You have such major control over that, and just being empowered and taking that into your own hands instead of the victim mentality of, well, it's going to get me, so I'm just not going to do anything about it.
Or I might as well eat the chips and the cake because
Yeah,
it's going to get me anyways.
It's going to get me anyways.
I love that you got to use the word empower again, because I feel like that's key for so much of what we've got going on in the world, right? Is taking back that power for ourselves. A lot of times we feel like we are victims of all this craziness that's going on, but we really do have more power over it. And nutrition is an excellent way to start taking back that power. I think that we, even as kids, we learn that, right? When we're a toddler, like, nope, I'm not going to eat that. That's the first thing we can have control over. I'm not going to eat that. Now as adults, we can choose what we eat and we can make those nutritious foods for ourselves. So I feel like empower is a great way to kind of wrap things up. But I did want to ask you a couple questions about resources. Who are you looking to for, like, what do you listen to, any podcasts or read any blogs, or you have any nutrition heroes?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start. I feel like I look at things all of the time. I've always been a fan of Mark Hyman, so I love what he does. I so many different, and I'm really into looking at integrative health and functional medicine. So just getting to the root cause of issues.
Oh, yes.
If anyone is kind of, if anyone listening is struggling and saying, oh, wow, I am taking the anxiety medication, this medication, that, how do I figure out what really is the root cause? Looking into integrative health and finding the root cause, I would encourage anyone to get to, because we're so busy as a society wanting a quick fix to mask the symptoms, and getting to the root cause is super important.
Huge. I can jump on a root cause soapbox too. That's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Because of my personal experience. I actually was fortunate. I look back now and think of it as fortune, where the doctor was like, well, yeah, there's really nothing we can do for you. And I'm like, what? So then that kind of forced my hand to then go to do my own and go to functional medicine doctors and follow people like Mark Harmon and stalk your Instagram for like, what things do I need to be avoiding? Shoot, I was going to ask another question. Oh, I was going to ask you to talk about your challenges that you do.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. So through my, history and not knowing how to eat healthy food and read food labels and being super addicted to sugar. So I created a 15-day reset where it's called Eat Clean for 15, where I'll walk people through how to eat real whole food for 15 days, do a sugar detox and a total diet reset. And it's just amazing. You have the support, accountability, guidance from me. It's in a group setting. So you have that start date on the calendar and an end date. So you can't just order a book and let it sit on the bookshelf and collect dust. You've got me there cheering you on, holding you accountable, and then a group aspect of others going through it too. So Eat Clean for 15, and I run that regularly. So definitely reach out, and I can give you more information about that, but it is life-changing. I've had clients go through that who have, one lady was on prednisone for rheumatoid arthritis, couldn't walk up her stairs. After a few days, she was off the steroids and was walking up her stairs without no pain. So digestive issues gone, off of acid reflux medications, more energy, better sleep, weight loss. I mean, it's crazy. But until you are guided and have that start date and have the education of a grocery store tour and eat this, not that, meal plans. It's truly life-changing. So that is my mission.
I would believe that. And I can attest to how supportive and just lovely your community is. You have great people surrounding you and following you. And I know I've already gushed a few times about your Instagram account. So people need to follow you there. I was going to ask you one thing I actually meant to ask you at the beginning, but I
Yeah.
saw on your Instagram, because I am one of your, what's a word I'm going to use? Fanatic followers.
Love
I don't
it.
know.
That is nothing means more to me than that. See, I get so excited. Thank you.
I saw that you received a
Oh,
leadership award.
I did.
What was
Thank
that all
you.
about? Tell us about
So
that.
thank you. So there in my city, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It was the 25 under 40 leadership award. So 25 young professionals under 40 were chosen for a 2022 leadership award for what they're doing, professionally and in the community. And I was very, very honored. It was a really, really big deal. So thank you.
Well, that feels good that they're honoring people that are doing this kind of work, because it's only going to then further the cause of us supporting our nutrition and our overall wellness in our communities and in our circles. So that's exciting. And again, my brain is going.
Oh, I didn't say
Oh,
my
I know.
Instagram. I
Oh,
didn't
what is
say
your?
so Alice_approved on Instagram. You can find me at aliceapproved.com. Alice Approved Facebook. Email me alice@aliceapproved. I pretty much just throw Alice Approved in the search and you're gonna find me.
And I feel that's one of the reasons I feel it's kind of a calling, because that Alice approved, like it just goes with the little
It goes.
lemon. It's
It's
adorable.
thank you.
And
Thank you.
I know,
Thank you.
because I don't know that I knew you're from the South, obviously, because I also gush over your Southern accent all the time. But, and this might get edited off, but are you familiar with the Avett brothers?
So my best friend is obsessed. I'm not really, but my best friend's daughter's middle name is Avett.
Okay.
So she's really into it.
Okay. At least that kind of counts then. I am Avett obsessed. I just actually, I don't
So
know if you saw, I
funny.
went to New York to see them
No.
for 3 nights in
So
Brooklyn.
cool.
That was amazing. I love them.
It's so cool.
I appreciate your time and I appreciate the work you're doing. I love following you, and I will continue to do so, and learning and being inspired to continue to improve my nutrition, because it is a lifelong thing. It's a lifestyle, not a diet.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. And for everyone listening, that's the importance too. No matter where you are in your health journey, even if you're a super healthy eater or not, we all, myself included, we all have room for improvement. And that's just a part of it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you're alive, we're still chasing towards better health and wellness. So we've all got room for improvement.
We do. We're getting there together.
Yes.
Thanks, Alice.
Thank you.
I'm assuming if you're still here that you enjoyed that conversation. Either that or your hands are busy and you can't stop the recording. Either way, I'm going to tell you that if you enjoyed the conversation and you want more of Alice, follow her on Instagram, but then come join us in the collective, because she did an amazing workshop for us this year about anti-inflammatory nutrition and how to audit your pantry to make sure you are doing best by your body. Anyways, thanks for listening to the New World Normal podcast. I appreciate your support. Please like, comment, share this episode with anybody you think will enjoy it, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our show. If you enjoyed what you heard, feel free to subscribe and leave us a review. If you didn't enjoy what you heard, reach out to us and let us know how we can make it better. This show really is about all of us, not just me and my guests, but how we can all work together to make the world just a little bit better. And if you'd like to connect with us in other ways, be sure to follow us on Instagram. We also have a free Facebook group where our fans of the show can connect and discuss their favorite episodes. And in addition to that, we have a membership platform, The Collective by New World Normal, where you will participate in monthly workshops, pop-up challenges, and weekly meetings to support a more intentional lifestyle. We have meaningful conversations about important topics, all in a space that is safe, supportive, and encouraging. So join us. And if you'd like to show us some more support, check out our intentional apparel shop online, New World Intentions. You'll find t-shirts, hats, totes, all with positive messaging to help you move more mindfully through your day and help you to create that new world normal. You can also check out our affiliate page where you'll find our favorite eco-friendly household and personal care products. Thanks again for listening.